which can unite it. And I think the only one issue is when it is external aggression.
Okay.
In my lifespan, I have only noticed this external aggression, either a Pakistan waging war or China doing something, that the entire country unites. So that is the only time when I see the whole thing getting united.
So beyond external aggression, you do not see
I
any
have
unifying
not, I
force?
have not seen. There are localized agitations. And so therefore the Zen G of that area, that comes up. But the whole country going into a Zen G flare, I don't see.
Some leaders within the country to invoke the passion of the Gen Z. Now, I want to understand, without getting into the political aspect of it, we'll discuss that possibly also. Without delving deep into the myriad political facets of it, I need to understand from you, is this the group or is this the age group that can easily be misdirected?
As I said, I have again given it a thought to find out if at all this is the age group, then why? And why is a very important question. When this gap became wide in the last say 20-25 years, it was accompanied by a lot of turmoil. We can start with economics.
Bring bad repute to the Election Commission or the various other institutions of this country itself.
Even if it is, as I said in my earlier answer, the responsibility lies with the government in power to ensure that people don't have doubts.
Okay.
That responsibility is there. This questioning of why should not end at why. And if you know the answer to the why, then it's almost evident. The judicial system, the political system, the states, the federal structure, the army, the police, the various forms of police. As you know, India is a federal structure with a lot of unitary aspects in its functioning. So when I said safety valves, I meant all those things. I can visualize it as cracks which are bound together, and they start operating when the system gets a jerk from outside.
Okay. तो नमस्कार मित्रों, वेलकम टू माय शो। आपके साथ मैं हूं शिव पूजन झा एंड वी हैव इनवाइटेड येट अगेन अ वेरी डिस्टिंग्विश्ड गेस्ट टुडे, ex DGP of the state, Abhyanand ji. Welcome to the show, sir. It's often said that in youth the river of life flows in full speed. The candle burns most brightly, and it is a life free from the clutches of childhood and old age. Yet, if we harness the full flow of the river, we get power, we get electricity. And if the flow goes unchecked, we have devastating flood. I've come to you to decode this concept of Gen Z. You have inspired generations of Gen Zs.
Thank you, Chief Pujan Jha. It's definitely a very new concept. At least it's clothed in a phrase, Gen Z, which is new to me, to many people. So I gave it a thought as to what is this Gen Z. And the nearest I could get to was a word called generation gap, which has existed all through life. My generation experienced it, my father's generation experienced it. So I thought of turning it around in my head and see if it corresponds to generation gap. And I have come to my conclusion that this is a gap. A generation which has been defined as bond between this and this. And this appears to be somewhat arbitrary.
Okay.
Being a physics student, I can tell you that this gap is there in nature too. Nature is not a very continuous flow, as you said in your introduction. That there is a flow which seems to be continuous. Time is not even continuous. There is a quantum division in time also, which is too small to be measured. So I would come to this. There is a generation gap. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I won't like to comment on that. But the gap has become very wide this time.
Okay.
From both ends.
Quite glaring this time.
It's become very glaring. It wasn't as glaring when I was growing up at their age. The age of the generation called Gen X. Gen Z. So, the older generation, the generation before Gen Z and the generation Z, the gap has become really wide. What you call the Nepo kids.
Okay.
And the generation just before that, perhaps they call it Generation X. There is just a terminology.
It's just a terminology would suggest that, in fact, Gen Zs have been into existence since time immemorial.
Yes.
I mean, we passed through that particular age.
Yes.
But at present, I think this gained so much of attention largely because whatever happened in Nepal. Now, there was an attempt quite recently by some leaders within the country to invoke the passion of the Gen Z. Now, I want to understand, without getting into the political aspect of it, we'll discuss that possibly also. Without delving deep into the myriad political facets of it, I need to understand from you, is this the group or is this the age group that can easily be misdirected?
As I said, I have again given it a thought to find out if at all this is the age group, then why? And why is a very important question. When this gap became wide in the last say 20-25 years, it was accompanied by a lot of turmoil. We can start with economics. We can go on with biology, the genetic changes, natural, the sociological phenomenon accompanying this gap. I gave a thought to the biological effects. AI was on the ascendancy during this time. So these phenomena did mark a very strong impact on the gap, and to make it visible and to make it as violent as it appeared very recently in Nepal.
Now, to put it in simpler words, sir, you are an academician par excellence, and since you have guided generations also comprising of the so-called Gen Z, I need to understand from you, Nepal primarily was not a sporadic event, but we saw that the kind of rallying which took place for one particular cause, there might be some internal conflict presently taking place, but the kind of galvanization which was there all of a sudden, lakhs and lakhs of this age group students coming out in the street, is it possible in India? There it was against the Nepo kids. Now we have got the BJP primarily targeting its opposition, saying that if the Gen Z is awakened to that extent, as has been a call from Rahul Gandhi himself, it will be against the Nepo kids. And the BJP has been terming that Rahul Gandhi, Tejashwi Yadav, Akhilesh Yadav, they are basically Nepo kids.
That's one way of interpreting it, and I won't say that it's completely a bad way of interpreting it. We can do that. Nepo kids and the kids, Nepo kids would be representing the generation just before the Gen Z. Gen Z would be the deprived part of it.
The deprived part.
Yes.
Okay.
And there, the Nepo kids would be going along with the generation high, just above the generation Z, so that they show up as the gap between the two generations. That is how I would look at it.
Okay, so now when we see that in the political arena of this country, there is this attempt to so-called instigate the passion of the Gen Z or to invoke the passion of the students, because they are clearly being mentioned in the various tweets or in what they are terming it as a clarion call. The intent appears to be malafide. Would you agree with me?
Intent of what?
The overall intent to make the present government unstable, dethrone the present government.
That I would say is a consequence of the gap.
Okay.
It's a consequence of the gap which politicians can take advantage of. And the politicians can take advantage of so many things around them. Take political advantage. Yes, they can, and they are doing it. But then the reason behind this is the generation gap is glaring, and it can be used as a, what they call in Hindi, mudda for political aims.
Okay. Now, if we were to analyze the same in the context of Bihar as such, it is headed for polls. Will we see that approximately 59% of the total electorate comprises of the younger lot? It's still young. Yet, call it a very strange dichotomy in this state, that we are still completely closed in our own caste cauldrons. Is it possible for this generation to break free from the shackles of casteism and possibly script some kind of change?
This is a very good way of looking at Gen Z gap.
Okay.
Because Gen Z may provide an opportunity to break the caste conundrum in the political arena.
Okay.
I wish it does. Even if it has bad effects or it is showing up badly, it at least bridges the caste barriers. It may be a good output of a bad phenomenon.
So can there be any parallels between, say, India and whatever took place in Nepal?
Immediately, no. Because India is too big a country and it has too many safety valves.
Okay.
So Nepal was too small and it does not have as many safety valves in the political process.
I want you to delve deeper into this aspect, because till this point in time, I think this is the most important aspect which you have raised, that we have got enough safety valves. Please explain, because I have seen a number of occasions where single-handedly the then police officer Abhyanand was in a position to control massive crowd that was maddening for blood. So you're talking about the safety valves, plenty in this country. Please explain this part.
It's almost evident the judicial system, the political system, the states, the federal structure, the army, the police, the various forms of police. As you know, India is a federal structure with a lot of unitary aspects in its functioning. So when I said safety valves, I meant all those things. I can visualize it as cracks which are bound together, and they start operating when the system gets a jerk from outside.
Okay.
That's
You've got multiple layers, okay, which can absorb all the shocks that exist. So you do not see any kind of parallel taking place as that took place in Nepal. Now, can it boomerang? You're trying to invoke the passion of a particular group which is always hooked to the social media. They have seen the dynamics in this country changing in the present dispensation, the discourse completely changing. Nation which was often attributed to be belonging to the snake charmers is slowly rising like a slumbering beast on its feet. And today, more or less, we see that we have carved for ourselves a place of permanence in the international community, and the world is looking towards us with respect. Appealing for the Gen Z?
Well, the answer to your question, big long question, is it would have happened with all these fragments in the country if only India was geographically small.
Okay.
It is quite big, and its length and breadth, it has the inertia to keep going on.
But we saw some glimpses of it during the Kisan Andolan, the way they tried to take over Delhi,
If you look
tractor rallies and all that.
at Kisan Andolan, this big part of the country was visible even there. And why do you think the government could ignore it for so long a time? The division between North and South. It was very evident.
Yes. We did not see any Kisan Andolan happening in places like Bihar or Uttar Pradesh. Some part of Uttar Pradesh,
Not
obviously.
even if Bihar was there or Uttar Pradesh was definitely there. But Kerala was not there.
Kerala was not there. Odisha was not there. For that matter, many states, it was hardly visible. We saw some kind of protest also taking place during the CAA agitation. Also, sir, not far from where we are presently, the Danapur railway station was almost burning. That was a sporadic protest which erupted over Agniveer Yojana.
Yeah, it did.
Yes.
So what I'm saying, Shiv Pujan Jha, is there one issue in this country which can unite it? And I think the only one issue is when it is external aggression.
Okay.
In my lifespan, I have only noticed this external aggression, either a Pakistan waging war or China doing something, that the entire country unites. So that is the only time when I see the whole thing getting united.
So beyond external aggression, you do not see any unifying force?
I have not seen. There are localized agitations. And so therefore the Zen G of that area, that comes up. But the whole country going into a Zen G flair. I don't feel.
So you mean to say that Gen Z frenzy for the whole country is next to impossible, and this can possibly take place in any adverse condition not less than some foreign aggression on Indian soil?
That is how I have seen it.
Yes, sir. One final question I would need to understand, and see, there has been enough debate about this dynastic politics, and we see that some of the regional parties, or for that matter, even the Congress, is completely embroiled in dynastic politics. You think that the Gen Z can play a pivotal role in breaking that in this country? Raja ka beta Raja banega. Must have heard several such slogans doing the round. Kyun banega is being asked.
Dynastic politics is something which personally I don't buy. At least if I am asked to either support or be against it, I would be against it. This concept of Raja ka beta Raja banega. In this generation, it doesn't work.
It does not work.
But if an issue is being raised, the issue which is being raised right now politically is vote chor hai.
Vote chor, gaddi chor.
Gaddi chor. Now, personally, I abhor this word, vote chor. It's something which hits at you. Especially if you are an educated person, it hits at you. But then the output of the whole thing is the people of this country need a government which has been voted to power through right process. Whether the process is right or wrong is a very difficult way, is a very difficult concept to prove or disprove. But it definitely creates doubts. So the responsibility of the people in power, whoever is the government in power, is to ensure that the people of this country at least feel that nothing hanky-panky has been done. जो हिंदी में हम कहते हैं अगर विश्वास नहीं है, it's like I'll give you an example. You get to feel that you got a bad disease, but you're not sure whether it is there or it is not there. So you go to the hospital and someone says, no, I have examined you, you don't have any disease. And then suddenly another doctor comes up and says, आपका symptoms जो है
ठीक नहीं लग रहा,
ठीक नहीं है. So you start getting into a dilemma and a doubt. This is the worst situation that can happen.
That you think precisely is the intent, to create doubt, to raise questions on institutions like the election commission.
Chief Pujan Ji, if the doubt has been created, it is the function of the political party in power to erase that doubt.
The Election Commission has been conducting a number of press conferences immediately after allegations are leveled against it. Now, also the ruling dispensation has been saying, why is Rahul Gandhi silent to when they win a particular election in a particular state? Initially, he raised questions on the Maharashtra, the outcome of the Maharashtra election, saying that the total number of voters increased stupendously and they voted in favor of the BJP. In Bihar, they are raising questions like vote ki chori ho rahi hai. The BJP has been saying that primarily the people who are from outside the country, primarily the influx, referring to the Bangladeshi influx or those from other parts of the world, since their names have been deleted, that is the reason why the Congress is raising a hue and cry about it. You do not speak about EVM in areas where you win the elections. So there is inherent contradiction in the statements coming from the man who is leveling all these serious allegations. Don't you think that there is a larger design, or possibly, if I am to aptly put the word, a nefarious design to bring bad repute to the Election Commission or the various other institutions of this country itself?
Even if it is, as I said in my earlier answer, the responsibility lies with the government in power to ensure that people don't have doubts.
Okay.
That responsibility is there. This questioning of why should not end at why. And if you know the answer to the why, then put it up. The ultimate, we are saying that people have to be the ultimate judge. And they will not be judging things according to the principles of law and jurisprudence. When people sit in a judgment, they don't invoke IPC or CRPC or whatever. Even the Constitution. They'll go by the common sense jurisprudence and पंचायत में जो लॉजिक होता है, that will be invoked.
That will be invoked. So you heard ex-DGP Abhyanand will keep bringing such discussions to you. Keep tuned. Thank you so much for watching.